The Daily Ironman Show with Ironman Daily is Ironman Daily. Welcome back to Ironman Daily, where I want to tell you a little something about bad politicians. A lot of intelligent voters and reasonable people have an idea about bad politicians, and they say these bad politicians should never be in power. But there's this interesting thing about democracy that you might not realize I want to share with you, where everybody gets the power to vote. So there's a lot of voters who don't know what they're doing. In fact, I'd say most voters don't have the time or the energy to really vote for the politician that is the best for the country, that will create the best policies. Many voters are persuaded by the candidate that they would most want to drink a beer with, or if there's a candidate who does some favor for them, then they'll vote for that candidate. If, for example, a candidate builds a well in a small town that really helps them out, most of the people in that small town are going to vote for that candidate because he's like their friend. People will vote for their friends rather than for the candidate who has the best policy. Plus, the politicians know this, so they don't even talk about their policies that much. They're just pandering to the masses. When you consider bad politicians, they're doing something very important. They're absorbing the vote from the bad voters. So, for example, if you consider Donald Trump, the new president of the United States, he talked a lot about tariffs during his campaign and how he wants to put tariffs on imports to America. The theory there is that it will compel businesses to move their manufacturing to the US, but we don't know if that's actually going to work or not. A lot of his voters figured that the tariffs would be good for American citizens, but the truth is the Americans have to pay the tariffs. Like, the businesses are going to push those costs onto the consumers. This is what I'm talking about, the divide between how the politician gain support from their voters and how their policies actually affect what's going on. So there's a lot of gaming, for lack of a better word. The politicians have to game the audience in order to get a significant portion of the voters. Say, for example, you have a population where there's a bunch of people who really want to go to war, and the ruling class knows that we shouldn't go to war. They have to pander to these warmongering voters in order to gain power so that they can not go to war. And this is the kind of dynamic that takes place in politics all the time. Just something to consider about the bad politicians. It's not always so simple as it seems, because the politicians have to absorb the vote from bad voters. Say, for example, in Canada, Pierre Poilievre. He's very pro-oil. A lot of people don't like him because he's neglectful of climate change and environmental concerns, but maybe he's just talking this way so that he can gain the vote of all of these people who don't care about climate change. Somebody has to take those voters, and I don't mean to support Pierre Poilievre, but in Canada with the upcoming election, I don't know who's going to win the Liberal seat. It might be Carney, and so if we have Carney versus Poilievre, that's tough. He's like a banker. I'm going to be staying tuned to those politics, and we'll see how it all unfolds. Do I have anything more to say about bad politicians? Another thing about bad politicians, it's crazy how the voter turnout for federal elections is greater than voter turnout for municipal elections and provincial elections, even though the most important elections are the ones in your municipality, and then the second most important are the ones in your province. And the federal election doesn't really matter that much compared to those other two, but the turnout, it's like, I guess everybody just wants to be a part of something big. Like, I don't get why the voter turnout for federal elections is so much bigger than for municipal elections. I've never studied political science, so I don't really know about this, but it's interesting that political scientists are usually not the ones who end up going into politics to become politicians. A lot of politicians are lawyers, or they come from other careers. What if the majority of our politicians were political scientists? Would that be better? Worse? What do you think? Let me know your opinion in the comments if you think our leaders should be political scientists or what. Does it matter at all what their profession is? Should our leaders be educated, or does it not matter? Thanks for watching this episode of Ironman Daily. I will be back with another episode on the next day. Cheers.